Hey everybody, happy to be here. So in this video, I'm going to go over how to create a Flexbox navigation that is responsive, and we are going to design it up mobile first, and then we'll move to the desktop format. So let's take a look at it, the finished product here. So we'll have these cool hover effects, and then we'll also look at it in mobile. And when we click this hamburger icon here, a navigation menu is going to come out. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to shrink this down so we can view both while we are making changes to the document. So to get started here, if you're in Visual Studio Code, you can press exclamation point, and you can get a skeleton for your HTML document. So after you've did that, let's go over what I have imported here. So I have a link to my style sheets. So first off, I have a CSS folder with style.css, and that is right here. And then the next one that I have commented out for now is the section, which is the background, just to give us some context when we're creating this navigation. But for the beginning of this tutorial, I'm going to have it commented out just so we can see what we're working with, and once we start adding z-index, I'll remove this comment here. Okay, so the next one is script, and the source is font awesome, and we will be using this to get the hamburger menu icon. Alright, so let's get started here. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, this is the section with the background image and the H1 and paragraph. We are going to start off with a header, and then image, and source, that is going to be images / then I have this panda SVG, and this is going to be our logo here, so, and I'm going to give it alt of panda. Then we're going to create a class logo. Alright, so here's our panda. Next we are going to create a input, and the type for that is going to be checkbox. So this is going to enable us to create the hamburger menu, and when we click on it, it's going to open up the navigation. So we are going to give this input an ID of toggler and a class of toggler. And this will make more sense. Here it is. We can check it. This will make more sense in a little bit. The next step is going to be creating a label. That's going to be for toggler, and class, we're going to call this burger for the hamburger menu, because later on in the CSS we will style it. So now we are going to have a span, and then an I, and then within we are going to say class FAS FA bars. So here we go. Now this is importing the font awesome, and it is giving us the hamburger menu. Alright, so let's move on to the navigation. So we're going to say nav UL LI A, and we're just going to put a hash symbol there because it's not going to be going anywhere right now. We'll give that a home. So what I'm going to do is Control C, and we'll do one more. So I'm just going to put in cities that I've traveled to or that I wish to travel to. Alright, so now we have a nav list. So now what we're going to do is we have the backbone of our HTML, and we can start styling. So let's go over to the CSS, and we're going to start off with the global selector. And we're going to say box sizing border box. Next, we're going to go with body margin 0, font. I'm just going with you can always do a Google import of fonts for something a little bit more stylish. We're going to give it a font weight, bold, and then we're going to start here with a comment, nav style start. Alright, so header, and we're going to give that a text align center, position fixed, width 100%, and we're going to give it a Z index of 100. So that's going to make it be on the frontmost portion, so we don't have any layers covering up our navigation. We're going to save that. Let's take this comment out. So we have a background here, so it's a little bit more enjoyable. Okay, so now we are going to call the toggler class. So this is going to be the checkbox here, and we'll just go back for reference. So we have our class here, toggler, and that's going to be called with a period toggler display none. because we don't need to see the little checkbox. We just want to see the hamburger menu. All right, so let's move on to the class of logo. We're going to display flex. We're going to give it a height of 80 pixels, a width of 80 pixels, and a margin left of 16 pixels. Okay, so there's our logo. All right, so let's start styling the nav UL, and we'll just go back to the HTML just to look at this. So we have the nav and then the UL, so the unordered list. And we are going to give it a position fixed, width 100%, height 100 view height, padding 16 pixels. And then we are going to give it a background of 58 58s. Okay. And we're going to give it a left of -100%. So it's going to be completely off the page. And then we are going to give it a transition all 0.5 seconds. So we'll open this back up here. I'm also going to list style none, so we can get rid of those bullet points there. Okay, -100. All right, so let's start with, for now I'm going to leave it at 0%. So we'll start with the nav li, margin bottom 16 pixels, and margin left 16 pixels. Now we're going to go to nav A, color white. So this is going to change our nav items. So we can look over in the HTML, it's the nav and then the A. Okay. So now we want to get rid of the text decoration, none, get rid of the underline there, and we are going to give it a font size, we'll say 20 pixels, and then a text shadow 2 pixel by 4 pixel, and then RGBA 31. And then we have a opacity of 0.658. So then our navigation A items, they start to pop out a little bit here. And next step, we're going to give it a text transform uppercase. That looks good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a pseudo, a hover, color, RGB, give that 91, 180, 253. Okay. All right, so, and then with that hover, transition, ease in. Then we're going to give it a 0.1 transition speed. Okay. So what we can do here we'll say dot toggler checked, and this is going to look for the siblings of the toggler, any of the siblings. So nav A, excuse me, it's going to be nav L, UL, and we are going to give it a position of left 0. So we're going to go back to the nav UL, all right. All right, now that we have the toggler functioning, let's get this burger centered. So we're gonna call the burger, we're gonna give it a position absolute, a font size of 35 pixels, and we're going to give it a color of white. Next, we're going to give it Let's give it the same text shadow that we had created for the nav A. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say top 0. And then we're going to say right 0. Starting to look better. Okay, and then we're going to give it a margin right of 16 pixels. A height of 100%. And display flex. Now what we're going to do is we are going to align items center. All right. Looking great, guys. Okay. Okay, next step, we're going to put in a comment here. So this is going to be desktop screen format. And then we're going to use media queries. So we're going to say at media screen and min width, we'll say 800 pixels. And then we're going to say dot burger display none, because we don't want to see. We'll just double check to verify that that's going to work here. So it disappears at 800 pixels. Okay. And then next, we will start styling the header section. And what we're going to use is we're going to use CSS Grid. So we're going to call the header display grid. And then we are going to say grid template columns 1FR auto min max, say 700 pixels 3FR. And I highly recommend watching a video on the uses for CSS Grid. So we'll keep on pulling this back out. Essentially what it's doing is it's subdividing the header section into grid columns. All right, now what we're going to style is nav, and we're going to display flex. And then what we're going to say is grid column 3/4. Then we're going to say justify content flex end. So it's going to push the navigation to the end of the flex container. Now what we're going to do is we are going to align items center. Then what we're gonna do next is nav UL. Okay, and we're going to use all, and then we're going to unset the previous rules that we had put in place for the nav UL. This isn't compatible with Internet Explorer. Just for reference, and then we're going to give it a list style of none. And display flex. Alright, so we have our navigation here, and it's nice and centered in the header section. So we'll leave it out like that, and we'll shrink this down. Okay, so next we will style the nav li, and we're almost done here. Nav li, margin bottom 0, margin right, that's going to be our trusty 16 pixels. Okay, so we have our responsive navigation, and when we shrink it down, you can always change these breakpoints as to when your format starts to collapse. And we have our hamburger menu with a click action. I hope this helped. Please comment and subscribe. Let me know what types of videos you guys want, and I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.